So, Blight, so you're running a brand new presidential campaign after you finished being the first president of Julia. I have to start with asking, why are you running again?
So I think it's a long-standing, not a secret, but like a long-standing thing that I love Julia. Even during my break, I'd come back if I felt like there was a crisis I could help out in. Even during my first stint of Julia, I was probably the biggest law contributor, by a solid margin at that. And that passion and love for Julia has never really gone away. The only thing that's changed is my schedule. For a while after the break, I had to move. I had some relationship stuff. I had a whole plethora of real life things happening, so I couldn't dedicate that time I wanted to with Julia. And I feel like now I have that opportunity to come back and to really be there, to not only have what I would call a more traditional presidency, but to once again be a part of the community that I love so dearly. I don't think it's a secret that I've been trying to make a bit of a comeback as of recent, and I understand president's a bit of a big goal to immediately shoot there for, especially when a lot of the newer Julians don't really know who I am off the top of the bat. But I think getting the message out there, and this hasn't been released at the time of the recording of this, but it'll be released here later tonight. NDP is dissolving. We're starting a new party on top of that. It's going to be known as the UCF. We'll see what that stands for here in a little bit, but I won't give too much away other than policy when we get to that. But yeah, no, absolutely. I think Julia is just a place where I belong, where a lot of people belong. It means a lot, and I'm here to, show what it means to care about Julia.
Yeah, so I mean, you speak a lot about caring a lot for Julia, and I think it's safe to say that not a lot of people are going to dispute that. More so, I think what people want to see in a candidate is what is your vision for change, what is driving your candidacy, is what is what is your policy.
So, most of my policy at this point is community based. I feel that when it comes, I've stated this in chat a few times. I think the ideological difference between simulation and community gets a little bit blurred to a lot of people. I think people view it as like if we're just like a simulation, there's no community. But if we're just a community, there's no simulation, and we got to find kind of a middle ground. I disagree. I think community is an innate thing that exists within a server, no matter what. The real question comes down to is how much of that community is political based and how much of that community is activity based. So for me, what that comes down to is streamlining government processes, making it so things run more efficiently, streamlining the laws. A lot of them right now are mired in bureaucraticness. A lot of them are very old and just kind of need to be consolidated. So a lot of it comes down to going through the old law book, consolidating where it needs to be, removing some of the laws that may not have a lot of prevalence, and then making a lot of the more important laws more accessible. So that way, people who are here kind of getting integrated can immediately read those like essential laws that you kind of need to know for everyday basis and move on from there. Well, at that point, it allows more people to engage in the community. Well, I think we have a great selection of people who show up every day, always put their effort in. I mean, you, for example, we got Four Eye, literally just having general open right now. We got Nepotism, someone who I absolutely love. Jake, who I absolutely love. Josh, no question there. Longtime friend. Angstorm, controversial figure right now. But what I think it kind of means to me is that a lot of us really care about each other. And I can say through my schedule and having to miss game days, that to me is something I fucking hate. I'd love to be there. I've noticed kind of the dwindling in that. I've noticed that there's a hype for Squid Game. So what I've been kind of thinking is let's get a community board going. Kind of like how the creator team went back in the early days, but not focused on like a world creation for the surrounding thing. More so a board of people where it's like let's get events going and a consistent amount of events, not just like one game day a week with some special events. Like let's just start like little mini things, like the D&D thing that just kind of spurred up today, right? It's more things like that we can get started that allow people with more busy or complex schedules to organize with each other to have smaller events instead of focusing on big server-wide events. And that doesn't mean we're getting rid of the server-wide events. Those server-wide events are very important to the health of Julia, but it means that even more than that, you can get involved. I'm talking we can have like little debates, not even about Julian policies, but about real life policies. There's a lot of people here who like talking politics. We can get some other tournaments going on for smaller games. Chess is something that I've seen is like people like around here. There's a community around that that's a little underground right now and only gets bought up occasionally, but people like chess. We can start a chess tournament. There's plenty of opportunities that are just not being explored and not currently getting the avenue to be. And I think that's going to be what we mainly focus on. But as we kind of talk about with external affairs, I don't think it's a secret. Some servers I don't like. You know, usually once they start to facilitate like right-wing ideas or try to start fucking with Julia, my policy is at this point not cut them off necessarily, but we got to put some distance between ourselves. While other servers, I've been recently introduced to a lot of good servers. Names aren't coming to my head right now, but we can strengthen bonds there, be more and have like an overlying community with each other. But it's really going to depend on more of that, like, not necessarily like, are we the same ideologically, but are we able to not basically yell slurs at each other? Because that's been something that's happened in Julia's past and something I want to never happen again. As it comes in the economy, truth be told, let's be real here, back. I'm not the economy guy in this server, right? I don't think there's any way I could say any economic platform that I would personally have would be the best for Julia. To say my information on that is partly out of date, partly that I haven't gathered the nuances. I don't even think I had the nuances within my first presidency. To me, that shows that this is a time where I rely on the community that we have built to help us build what would be a good economy, right? I do see the economy as a factor that lets people play into it. I just think it comes down to it needs to be more of an option. It's not required, but for those who want that economy aspect, we can provide that. And it's how we provide that without forcing anyone else into it that me and my future staff would get to work on. And then as it comes to the bureaucracy, like I said, the law docket's a little bit scattered right now. I feel the same about the Constitution. I feel like the Constitution, when it was originally written, was a little bit more concise, a little bit more there. And I think the improvements we've made on the Constitution have been great for the most part. There's some severe oversights that were made in the first drafts and the first version out that we have since fixed. But as a problem with that, we did see recently that the norms was kind of tossed down. I know even before that, the norms were thrown into whack. So it's more so going through and amending those errors, right? Going through, we just need to have a time where we just kind of go through, consolidate it down, get it all to function. Because at this point, the government's a little scattered out, it's a little bloated, it's a little confusing. So getting it really back down to that central, like, we know what we're doing, we have an exact line for everything makes sense, and that government process can move a little bit more efficiently. That's really what has to be focused on, especially in order to make the community happen a little better too. Yeah, I know that's a lot of information. Yeah. That's basically the whole policy.
Yeah, you're good. So you were talking a little bit about, you're not omnipotent. You aren't going to know everything. You're going to need a supporting cast around you. And one thing that is different from your first presidency is Amendment 26, and that is you're going to have to select your cabinet from the current sitting senators. So, knowing that, I'm going to ask you, out of the Senate lineup that we currently have, and that will be a largely unchanged Senate lineup that you would possibly inherit as the president-elect, who are you going to be eyeing at to be in your cabinet?
I think a lot of the people who are currently in the cabinet do a wonderful job. I don't think it's a secret that I've liked you as AG. I think you're very competent in Julian law. I don't think it's a secret to say we haven't always gotten eye to eye. We've definitely fucking hated each other at times, and I'm not even going to dispute that.
There's there is a saying that I heard from Zoran Mamdani himself that said, if you agree with someone 100% of the time, then you're a fucking psychopath.
Oh yeah, no, unequivocally, and I think we both agree in this. We're both two sides of the same coin, right? We're both a little, not we know what's best, but we can logically put up the best, and we're not really the back down types if we think we have a good point. So it just ends up clashing with each other a lot. But like I said, we both have very valid. Good. Sorry, I just want to.
Anyway, enough about me. More about your cabinet.
Yes. Anyways, apologies, distraction there. So kind of looking in, Maple, someone I also very much really enjoy. Because if I'm giving you is wrong, by the way, let me know, but I have a list pulled up here. Maple is someone I'd be eyeballing, depending on how much they're still kind of interested in the cabinet position. I don't know if they have interest or not. Low Poly, someone else I've really gotten to enjoy working with, talking with. Jacobs, absolute classic of person. Worked with him in my first president run. Me and Jacobs have always gotten along great. Sid is someone I've come to very much respect and enjoy being around. I don't know Chance that well, but Chance has always been someone who I've like thoroughly, from what I've seen, a level of like high competency, a level of knowing what they're doing.
Well, just to let you know, Chance has been backing away from politics recently.
That's all right. In that case, I mean, it'd be up to Chance if they decide they'd want to come in, or if they want to continue backing up. That's their choice. Of course, Solar, we've had our disagreements. And then basically TODI and Q are the main ones I'd be looking at that point.
Did you just name all the senators?
No. I'm not doing Captors blow up on A. God, no. Those three.
But yeah. I think I think some people would. Sorry for cutting you off, but in the interest of time, I want to make sure that I get all my questions across. I feel as though this is something that I could personally see be an issue with your administration, and I'm sure other people would possibly have this issue as well. Is that of setting precedent. So, obviously, as we know, you served your term as the first president, and while the Julian Constitution says that after you serve a two-term limit, that you cannot run again for another 2 terms. I'm curious about the precedent, though, of a president having served their time, coming back. Are you worried at all about the precedent that this could potentially set?
I don't think it is a concerning precedent. I think there is a very high knowledge of who did a good job in their presidency and who did a bad job. And I think that retrospection time is really what gives the lens of, does this person deserve to be elected, right? When we look at my presidency, massively controversial at the time, right? I'm basically the Jimmy Carter of Julia. Because as time has gone on, a lot of people have come to really, be a lot more like good president. They did a lot, not everything perfectly, but they had a lot of goals. They had a lot of ideas. They were working with a lot of different moving factors, and they made it work. They put in the hours, and they made Julia. I'm not going to say I made Julia to what it is today, but I was a huge push to bring Julia.
Well, in the same way that all the Julian founding fathers were.
Oh, yeah, no, exactly. But I'm saying, as that first president, I'm able to, look back on and say, here's what I did. Here's the work I put forward. Here's the level of collaboration I focused with other people. Here's really what I tried to propagate and what I did propagate on, a personal level. And that's not saying I did it alone. I rarely, if ever, claim I solo did something. For the longest time, even when it was at the Constitution, I said, with the help of the CAT. Because everyone in the CAT who helped there did a phenomenal job. Everyone who helped bring Julia to the way it did was a phenomenal job. But I can say that kind of, I guess the best way to put it is like a pirate analogy, right? Everyone on the pirate ship puts their work in, does everything you guess. It's just the captain who steers the boat. All I did was steer Julia in a direction, and everyone pushed for that dream. Everyone pushed together, and I hope to see Julia pushing together once more, and we continue having a great nation. But back to the main question of precedent, it comes down to, did that president effectively do a good job? Was Julia better in that moment? If Julia did better, and we know that, the people will vote in such a way that says, yes, we like what you did the first time, and we think at the current state of Julia, you can do well again. We give you this trust. When we look at other presidents who are still to this day really not liked, and we have a level of, we don't trust you on this again, right? If someone did a good job, why would them coming back and saying, I'd like to do a good job again, be a negative thing? That's kind of the point I'm getting at here.
Well, I think one of the major concerns of that precedent would be, this idea of, ascendancy in Julia, of, it's always been a major part of Julian politics of, working yourself up through the system. And the pinnacle of that has consistently been becoming the president. Um,
Right.
and so, another angle of it isn't necessarily did the president do a good enough job to qualify them to return back, but more so letting new people take the reins, letting more perspectives help guide how Julia looks in the future.
I think, once again, it's an extremely valid point. I think that's always been a great thing about Julia. But I feel like at that point, you could have the same argument for incumbent candidates, right? We've had candidates who have run and then won again. Um, First one that comes to mind is Jash. She, had her term as presidency. She ran again and won by a pretty decisive victory. Um, by that kind of thing, the only difference is I've taken a little bit of a gap, but I'm coming back now. So really, in that case, the precedent doesn't necessarily change. It's just more so the same question. Did we like them when they were president? Do we want them again? It kind of circles back into the original.
I see. I have one more question that took my tongue. It's going to take me a second to remember it.
Absolutely. No, you're all good.
Um, yes. Okay. So, obviously, as I've very much hammered in throughout this interview, you have had some time away from Julian politics, and when you return back into the scene, has there been any glaring issues or changes to Julian culture or even politics that completely rubs you the wrong way, and that you'd like return back?
I feel like that's kind of an innately hard question to answer because Julia is not the same place it was, right? I feel like it's comparing apples to oranges, right? When we first had Julia within that first month, and even I would say the entire time of my presidency, and following that up until probably early March, if not late February, somewhere around that time period, Julia was pretty much entirely just a simulation center, right? We didn't really have community events. We had like debates and stuff, but I was still focused around the simulation side of things. And I think innately what that's kind of promoted is a culture in which things were a little bit more toxic. Things were a little bit more my way or the highway. I know what's best for everyone all around. And truth be told, it's nice to see that that's changed. I feel like Julia has become a lot more of a, okay, I see where you're coming from. Let's work on this together. Let's make an image together, and we all kind of come together. It seems like most bills are now bipartisan, and I admit I have a fondness for that kind of debate, and I do miss that was a little bit of a thing to happen on more of a wide scale concept, not just like in the legislation talk and everything like that. I think it has become more healthy, and it propagates people staying for longer. And I do think Julia right now is at a level where the amount of conflict that happens is this nice mix between it's enough conflict to get people to stay, it's interesting enough, but it's not too toxic that it immediately starts shutting people away. Elections also don't immediately cause people to flee. After the first election, when people lost, I mean, we saw a decent drop in like active people, right? Just because their side didn't win, they were kind of done with it. And I get it, your side not winning hurts, but we don't see that anymore. I think that's great.
Yeah.
So I think the thing I'm trying to propagate here, what I'm trying to say is, Julia has changed so much that it's impossible to directly say that I feel like there's any glaring issues. Now, of course, I do think there's threats to Julia, but I've yet seen nothing that we can't overcome, especially as a unified people.
Yeah. Yeah, when we talk a lot about making sure that Julie isn't toxic and that it's welcoming not only to newcomers but to veterans as well, I always think about the people that we've lost along the way, and although some of them have returned, and I think that goes to show of how far we've come in procuring a healthy environment. One of the few people that come to mind that I don't think a lot of people remember very often is your first, your vice chair of UWP Voxhawks.
Yes.
And I don't want this to be about me, but I'm trying to add to the conversation here.
No, you're good.
Where I try to think about how can we make changes so that they wouldn't have had to have left, right? Because it might be naive to say, but I do think that losing those early veterans that quickly, like within a month, was some of the most devastating losses long term to Julia. We just haven't seen how different Julia would be.
No, I'll agree to that. I do think it's a complicated issue, right? Because I can speak specifically. Everyone has their own reasons for staying or not. I can speak specifically for Votox. It was a lot of their personal life was just too busy at the time. They didn't give me a lot of detail, and even if they did, I don't think it's my liberty to discuss it. But I know for them, it was just they didn't have the time to commit to the server. I think it's a thing that happens to a lot of people. And it does hurt to see that people we have come to love and appreciate. I mean, love might be hyperbole, but love is a part of the community, right? It hurts to see people go. But just as you were mentioning earlier with the new people ascension, I feel like it comes with a bittersweetness to it. Because while we may lose people, for every person we lose, we gain one or two. And I feel like there's a cyclical nature to it. Not everything is permanent. Everything has its place, everything has its time, and appreciating who and what we have in those moments, I think is what makes Julia special. Because if every old head stayed, and every new person didn't have a chance to shine, what would we want from the server then? I feel like at some level you need to lose something to gain something. It's not always ideal, but I feel like that's part of what makes Julia great, is it's a revolving door.
Yeah, and and I'm glad you re-mentioned the what I was talking about earlier about Julia always being or providing opportunities to new people. And because I really want to hammer this home, because I don't think you touched on it as well as I'd like for you to have done, of the idea of why you specifically, let's say hypothetically, one of the other candidates held the exact same platform as you, exact same policies, but it's a new person, so it's a new perspective, and it's that feeding into that revolving door idea that we're talking about. Why should people say, because essentially this election is going to be somewhat, because you're the high profile candidate, right? This election is going to be somewhat of a referendum on did I like how the first presidency and the first administration was run? Or, for new people, do I like how people talk about the first administration? And,
I feel like... Oh, sorry.
yeah, and while the seat embodies the revolving door of someone new being able to take the mantle.
I feel like at some level that's a mistake, right? I think a part of it is speaking forward of, like, did we like this person? And that effectively comes down to a level of trust, is what I'm getting at. Do the people trust me to not put Julia into hellfire, right? And I think I've earned that trust. I think, especially given the situation in which I originally ran, the situation in which I originally had to operate, and the mandate I was kind of given going in, I feel like I did a good job at holding Julia together. And I feel like, once again, I can put that work forward. But when you equate the problem to being, does this prevent the revolving door? I feel like it misses the point of Julia is, in essence, always going to be a revolving door, right? Just because someone new is the president doesn't mean that door closes and we board it up.
No, I'm not saying the revolving door would close. I'm just saying it's
No.
it somewhat jams it, doesn't it?
Well, what I'm saying there is the top place of power isn't always what that revolving door is, right? The Senate and the judiciary are two very important parts. Arguably, the president should just be the weakest branch, and I've argued this since the beginning. And I stand by that. I think that a Senate position, while it might not feel as special, genuinely kind of means more. And it should mean more. I know it doesn't always on like a perception perceived scale, but the ability to make laws is immense, and holding that power is immense. And let me reorganize myself here for a second to get the point I want to cross effectively.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't prep for this interview, so.
I didn't either. Don't worry.
We're both raw dogging this shit. Okay. The question in and of itself is a slight misnomer, on the grounds that a revolving door in and of itself will always let new people in and out, right?
Yes.
I left, I'm coming back. Other people leave, they're coming back, and they're welcome to integrate. The point of Julia is that it's always a community. Jester, my opponent at this point, and I think there's someone else who's running as well. I have to remember.
Lopali.
Lopali?
I think so. He reacted to both the presidential and vice presidential one, so I'm not sure if it's a joke or not.
We'll see. But point being, Jester, who seems to be the other frontrunner at this point, then, to my knowledge, if Lopali's running there, another frontrunner as well. But especially because of JJP's recent boost, Jester's been here since before the first election. He was part of UP. It was, he was a high up member in UP as well. That's not a new person, and he's come back, and I feel like then the precedent the question doesn't become, is it a new person we're letting in? Do we always want new people to be president? It more so becomes, do we just not someone who's the president beforehand to run again? And I don't see a reason why not. I see that to some people might feel like that door is jamming up, but to me that it shows that door is still always open, no matter where you are in that door. It shows that you still always have a chance in Julia, no matter where you start, where you've been, and where you go. Every position can always be open to you. You can always go wherever you want, Julia, if you put the hard work in, if you genuinely care about the community enough, and if the people trust you enough. You can do whatever you want, Julia. And I think that says a lot more.
Okay. Now, I have two more questions for you, and these are going to be a little quicker. The first one, if you were to win the election, and after your term is complete, will your name be first and eighth president, or will it remain as just first president?
Oh fuck, that's a good question. I didn't even consider this.
Is the distinction that important to you?
Oh man, hold on. Let me actually think. That's a really good question. President for some time? Question mark. Don't really know. Something like that. I don't know. I'd have to think about it, but I'd probably make a quip out of it at some level. Right. I feel like it gives too much of an opportunity open for jokes that would otherwise be missed.
People do rat on you a little bit for being one of the few past presidents who still hold on to the title.
The president title. That is true.
It is an honorable title in your defense.
It is.
But
I think I don't feel like, I'll say this. I don't feel like I cling on to it in the sense of for myself, view it as an honor to have served as the first president. With no previous context other than the fervor I had to run, the way I was able to cooperate people, enough people were able to put their trust into me to basically make me a dictator. And
can I news clip that part?
Yeah, sure. Remember, I did have my great purge, but no. I jest on that, but effectively, let's be honest.
Do you know?
The first presidential race was in essence electing a dictator. because it really was.
It was.
Just they
Fully
have
it was.
unlimited power.
It fully was.
And that's a lot of trust. So to have that level of trust, when people say that we trust you, that I personally wear that as a badge of honor. And I think at some level, especially to a lot of the new people, that kind of knowledge is lost. How tense that first election was because the amount of power that was put into it.
Oh my god, it was very tense.
It was chaotic, dude. We could go on a nostalgia trip, but the thing I will always remember most about that first election was the debates. The invoice called debates.
Actually, that's an excellent segue. That's an excellent segue.
Perfect.
You know, you've had months to prepare for this specific question. But I'm not sure if you're going to give a great answer, I'll be honest.
Okay.
Pineapple on pizza?
God damn it. No, god damn it. Was this the actual question you had planned out?
I just thought of it like 5 minutes ago. But
oh, fuck. Okay, I'm gonna give context to this just really quick for those who don't know. This was a question during... Was the first or second debate?
It was the first. It was very first debate. It was right after we were heated. Debate. We were yelling at Aprox. And then Toast interjects with pineapple on pizza. And then we lose our shit going like sarcastically debating it. And
that was the most violent question of the night. And it was not even close. People were yelling at each other, screaming. I mean, it was all in good fun and chess. But my god, was it chaotic. I still remember, like, I think I was like banging on my desk and shit. Oh my god, that was beautiful. I still gotta say, my opinion on this I think has changed. I like it within certain kinds of pizza. If you're having like your traditional New York style pizza, fuck you, right? But if it's like a more like flatbread pizza with like dried pineapple, so it's not all soggy and shit, so it's like
an artisan pizza.
Like an artisan. I don't think it's the best topping. Honestly, pear on pizza with those artisan pizzas, that goes well. I'll fuck with some pear on those pizzas. I know that sounds like a weird choice, but
I will say you did mention this, but like sun-dried tomatoes are completely underrated as an artisan pizza topping.
They really are. I will admit they're not even my favorite, but like if I'm having like a what's the pizza? Margarita style pizza, fuck Romana. Don't give me fucking Romana tomatoes. Give me sun-dried cherries. Like,
okay.
Genuine.
Okay.
I was not ready for that question. I will tell you that. You were right. I was not ready.
You've had months to prepare for that question.
I did, and honestly, it's on me. It was a complete blunder of my campaign. Do not elect me.
All right. Well, Blight, thank you so much for this exclusive interview with Tip. And as I mentioned, this will be the first in a series of debates with all the presidential candidates, which will then be followed by, this is the first that anyone's going to hear about this, followed by a live debate session.
I've been waiting for this! Put me back in, coach!
But yeah, thank you, Blight, for your time, and good luck with the rest of your campaign.
Thank you, I appreciate it. And to all those listening and to yourself, Rack, I hope that I receive your vote. I know maybe not first, but I'm hoping second. So we'll see how it goes. But I appreciate the time.
I think to be fair, I think my endorsement has to come after all the media shenanigans.
That is entirely fair.
All right. Again, thank you so much, and have a good night.
Take care.